Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Vice President Mike Pence are heading to Turkey today. They're going to try to convince Turkish President Erdogan to stop a military incursion in northeastern Syria. The meeting coming just a day after President Trump said that Turkey's move is of no concern to the United States. Let's bring in James Carafano of the Heritage Foundations, and you're going to be a great voice on this morning. James, how bad is this situation, in your opinion, between the Kurds, Syrian forces, and Turkey, and where does Vladimir Putin, play into all of this?
Yeah, well, let's focus on the Russia angle, because I think that's the most interesting and which you've heard the most kind of silly stuff. Look, the Russians have no place to go in Syria. Syria's always been in the Russian orbit. It will always be in the Russian orbit. They're primarily interested in the port and the control of Damascus. But Syria doesn't really take them anywhere. If they push south, they immediately bump into Iran, they bump into Israel, they bump into Turkey. So this isn't about Russia emerging as a great power player in the Middle East. That's just silliness. And how much are the Russians really going to expend to keep Assad in office? He's already in office, but extending Assad's territory, how much blood and treasure are they going to expend in that? And the answer is not much. Putin is an opportunist. He's an ambulance chaser. Anytime stuff like this happens, he jumps in and plays a big guy.
But here's the thing. Even members of the GOP, President Trump's own party, have expressed concerns that this does open a further window for Vladimir Putin when it comes to Syria, and that the bigger picture here is that Putin wants power in the Middle East, and this seems to be one step closer for him. Right. And we also should say, and I kind of mentioned this a moment ago, that Putin and Erdogan are going to meet. We just learned that overnight as well.
Right. Look, I do policy. I don't do politics. I don't know why politicians say what they say. I just look at the analysis on the ground, and the reality is the Russians have no place to go here. And this is classic Putin. This is what he always done. He meets with other one. He meets with other people. There's a disaster. He shows up and he goes, "How can I make hay out of this?" But the reality is Russia has not dramatically improved its strategic position here, and that's incredibly unlikely to change.
Well, then let me ask you a policy question, James. Is it bad policy for the United States to do a complete withdrawal out of Syria?
Probably, because we still have interests in Syria. We don't want masses of refugees. We don't want ISIS to reemerge. We don't want Iran to have a platform to attack Israel. So where we can use our presence on the ground to help further those interests, that makes sense. We still have forces in southern Syria. They might remain there. I agree with the president. We should not have a permanent footprint in Syria. I agree with the president. We are not going to solve the Syrian civil war, and I agree with the president. It is not in our vital interest to worry about the future of Syria. I agree with all the critics. This has been a PR disaster, the way the president rolled this out. People were confused and befuddled, and I think rightly so. But I think the fundamentals of U.S. policy
but civilians are dying in northern Syria, James, and the Kurds are now at risk. And where are all those ISIS fighters going to go? These are valid concerns.
Yeah, well, here's the great irony here. Why could a couple of hundred American troops jump in the middle of the Syrian civil war and essentially go after the caliphate? And the answer to that is everybody was happy for the Americans to come in and partner with people to kill the caliphate. They were cool for that. And now that the United States essentially has accomplished the mission of destroying the caliphate, everybody is happily go back and squabbling over the little bits and pieces of Syria. The big loser here, you're right, is the Syrian people. Yeah. They're stuck in the middle of the civil war. But they've been in the middle of that war for years, and it's not our fault.
James Carafano, thank you for the policy perspective, as always. Appreciate it. Good to have you on the show, as always.